Hey guys, this is D aka Dark Frozen Deaths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, this is going to be quite a few sneak peek things that I'm going to cover. Some things I won't be able to have on screen because they were like Discord images and stuff, and I'd have to like pull a whole bunch of them up. But trust me when I say there's a lot of different stuff that's along the way over the course of the next year or so, and it's quite a lot to take in, especially given some of the stuff they've announced at the summit that hasn't even come out yet. So that's going to be quite a lot. And bear with me because I may have some info wrong because, again, some of it's just recently announced, but I'm going to try to be as correct as possible with this. So that's something to know. But there are some things I'm going to have to point out as well that we've discovered and we can do right now. So that's something to know. Lastly, some of this stuff is going to be pretty recent, like as in it's going to be popping up on our server pretty soon, like the global servers. So be very prepared for it. Now, starting off, there's been accessory request announcements. They are indeed going to do an 8th tier of it. An 8th layer. I just don't know what's going to happen with it. I've heard that they might have timepieces dropping from it, but I don't know for sure. They will indeed, however, drop from these, which are the Guardian Plus raids. We don't get this until much later. Like, we don't get the timepieces dropping from them until much later. Along with possibly some other stuff as well, such as the green cores, which should drop from the normal Guardians as well. What we will get, however, is this, Phalag Plus. This is going to show up in about a week or less. And they don't have the health info up here, but going by one of the other Guardian raids, it had 600 million HP from somebody soloing it. Generally speaking, expect all the Guardian Plus raids to have more HP than, or maybe as much HP as Atlas. And starting off, they will be more difficult than Atlas. We will have the nerfed version of Phalag Plus, and there's also another one eventually. But we will have those at some point. But starting off, we don't get the nerfed one, which means we're going to have to deal with this old data right here. The stuff that was crossed out is actually going to be in the raids for a while. And for that, it's going to be very, very dangerous because every 20 turns, you're going to see enemies start getting stronger and also nuke you very, very hard. It says 100,000 damage. And then the damage output they deal is going to be stackable. You can't remove it. It's going to have no limit. So it's going to be quite a dangerous fight. The one thing that will not change, you will need elemental advantage to really do anything in this fight, because they have that special effect where if there's any attributes other than water, you're dealing less damage and they're going to have much higher resistance towards debuffs. Basically, you're not going to land any. So water teams definitely need to be prepared for this. It's going to be very difficult. Even after the nerfs, you're going to want to be really prepared for it. So as much as some people may try to say it's easy, it really isn't. There is a reason why the Japanese side does not want you leeching these raids, and especially the malicious ones. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be like over-encompassing to where it's just, okay, you're going to get your face kicked in. What I am saying is that it is going to be one of the harder fights because, of course, it is like endgame level stuff. And unfortunately, if you want final break limit weapons for Guardian weapons, if you want final break limit for Eidolons, if you want the last upgrades to the Machine Beast Eidolons, you're going to need to do this. And I may be wrong about this, but I think you would want to do this in order to get prepared for Malicious Raids. it's still weaker than the Malicious Raids later on. So, that said, definitely prepare yourself properly for these. This is just Foul Egg, by the way. When it's nerfed, it will have all of this info right here. And the big kicker, too, is that before the nerf, you can't even put attack and defense down on there. So, you would be stuck with just elemental debuffs. So, yeah. It's going to be pretty difficult when it comes out. So, have a very strong water team. I've been building up my water grids. They're not the best. And honestly, I need more HP for them, too. But I am getting there, and I do eventually plan on taking it on because I am raising as many elements as I can, and eventually I'm going to need to get some final break limit stuff anyways, because I've got a decent amount of Eidolons that should be prepared for that. So there's that. And they're not all specifically fire. They're going to be different elements. Like if they ever do a final limit break for the Kaisers, I'll easily be able to prepare like a good 6 or 7 for that one. But one thing that comes to mind is definitely the 100% Eidolons, not the 140%, the 100%. They get final limit break, and I am very close to 2 of them being able to do that. One of them definitely will be later on, given the Eidolon Orb Shop changes. So that said, I will absolutely need to be able to do this one right here, which is Haggith Plus. And something else I should point out too is that the Guardian Plus raids are just like the Ragnarok catastrophes, where you have a main boss and helpers to deal with. And depending on the fights, it may have different things. Like I know Bethor, you can't attack her. Well, you could, but you won't deal any damage. But when you kill her helpers, she just gives up on the fight. And for Foul Egg Plus, this is something you need to remember too. You have to kill both the boss and the helper at the same time, or the survivor will just go completely nuts on you. It is very devastating. So, that said, prepare yourselves. Now, I mentioned the Malicious Raids. And they're ironically called Machine Beasts, but I mentioned the Malicious Raids. These, when they come out, are going to be one major damage sponge, because all of them have 850 million HP. But generally speaking, the strategy for them is basically this. The first 5 turns, do not burst at all. Don't have a single character burst, or you will get countered. How you get countered is different between each raid, but it just makes things worse. So, first 5 turns, don't burst. From turn 6 to 10, you have 2 conditions to meet. One of the conditions varies between the raids, but the common condition is 50 million damage dealt to the enemy. I don't know if it's from a single person or if it's raid-wide, but that's a lot. I'm assuming it's raid-wide because, of course, there's a lot of HP on these guys. But if you're trying to solo this, then doing 50 million damage on your own is going to take quite a bit within that 5-turn window. That is averaging 10 million a turn. So, yeah. And then the last 5 turns, which is the third pattern, is AI. Generally, it's based on the results of the previous 5 turns. If you did not meet those conditions, these 5 are going to be even worse for you. But I do know that they will lessen up if you meet the conditions for turns 6 to 10. And this is all on top of the fact that you still have to deal with a plethora of triggers. So, that's something to know. But other common things that's between all the different Malicious Raids, they all seem to use names that's already been used before. Like there's Phoenix, there's Griffin, there's Cerberus, and there's Leviathan. You've probably heard those names before, especially a select few, because they're pretty strong Eidolons. But that's common. Then on top of that too, they're all going to want you to be rank 140 when they come out, because there will be rank changes and all that too. So don't expect to go into these until you're like very high rank. And then they also give some very interesting stuff. First off, you're going to need their materials in order to get ultimate limit breaks. What that is a 5th star on weapons. If they come from a gacha, or if they are the Dragonic Eye weapons that cost 15 eyes, they will have an ultimate limit break. These raids also give their own ultimate limit break weapons, but honestly, they may not be all that great. They are grindable, but they're like last resort, really. Because if you're going for ultimate limit break weapons, you want the ones that come from the gacha, or the 15 Dragonic Eye weapons are actually pretty good. Like most of them get stupid levels of power, like stupidly powerful. And a common thing between them at that point is going to be an extra large skill, and then a large one to go with it. And this goes up to skill level 40. Ultimate limit break adds another 10 skill levels. So final limit break will add 10 skill levels, and generally they tend to change weapon skills to make them a little bit stronger as well. Ultimate doesn't make the weapon skill stronger, but it gives you access to another 10 skill levels on top of that. So yeah, imagine that. It also gives you higher base stats too. Some of these get pretty absurd with base stats. So yeah, that's something to know. You will want to do these raids for the ultimate limit break weapons, without a doubt. Not the ones they drop, but the ones that you get from other sources, like gacha or Dragonic Eyes. Now, the other thing that these give is Timepiece Accessories, and I've mentioned that already with Guardian Plus, because that's something that's recently been added to JP. We'll get it like a year later. These are very powerful accessories because they have incredible base stats, and they also have slot effects. The ones from the Malicious Raids is slot effect 5. The ones from Guardian Plus is slot effect 4. Generally speaking, if you're running Devil Set with these, you can have a crap ton of powerful slot effects. You can still get the set effects too, like 3 TRs, but it's insane just how powerful accessories have gotten, and quite frankly, you're going to want these. You're really going to want these. All the more reason to get 5th slots on characters, guys. But another interesting thing about these Malicious Raids too is the fact that these, if I remember correctly, you cannot start all that often. And I can pull up the list for the raid quest right here. If I remember correctly, you cannot start those all that often. Like, there's only a select few runs per day, and there you go. Like, you do need the you need Guardian Plus materials in order to open up a malicious fight. But as it says right here, you can only do them once per day. Just like I thought, you don't get too much opportunity to open these up. So that said, if you're going to go after these raids, you're going to need to be very well prepared. Just like the previous ones, they're going to have a restriction against off element. I've heard, and I haven't fully confirmed this, but I've heard that you can't even enter unless your soul is the right element to be strong against them. So, for instance, if you do not have a water soul, you cannot take on a fire one. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but I heard it might be. So that's something. But as you can see, there's a lot of raids that end up being in the game, and then they're going to be restricted by ranks as well. So if you do not have the proper rank, you will not be able to do them. So you're definitely going to want rank 140 later on. And some of this stuff does indeed change a little bit. Like Atlas will allow you to use elixirs at one point because it will get a nerf eventually. And when it gets nerfed, it becomes a joke. I'm not kidding on that one. When the Atlas nerf shows up, Guardian Plus will easily be tougher than it. Like, Guardian Plus will easily be tougher than it, only because of the sheer amount of HP comparison. When all the raids get their respective nerfs and whatnot, you will generally find, at least in my opinion, Guardian Plus to be harder than Atlas, and Malicious to be harder than Guardian Plus. So, that's something to know. You won't need materials to open up Ultimate raids, so you won't need materials from Standard and Expert to open up Ultimate. That's something to know. You will need Ultimate to open up the Ragnarok and the Guardian. You'll need Guardian to open up Guardian Plus, and you'll need Guardian Plus to open up Malicious. So, that's something to know. But, that's generally like a quick overview of what the raid changes are. Now, something else that's been announced is definitely some more awakenings. I don't know if they have the info on Jupiter's, but she's recently been given one, or at least it's close. Yeah, they don't have it posted here, but Jupiter is supposed to have one pretty soon. I know Daki has been announced. For some weird reason, they're ignoring Amaterasu. I don't know why. Amaterasu is one of the earliest characters in the game, and she has not gotten an awakening yet. She's been so just outclassed, and it's just, wow. They just do not want to give her an awakening for some stupid reason. I don't understand it. But, that's something to know. And then, also, I don't really have it on screen either, but there was something that was announced where there's going to be a new mechanic in the game. You're going to want to level up all your characters as high as possible now because of this new mechanic. What this new mechanic does, and I'll try to explain it as best as possible, the levels of your characters will determine a bit of a strength bonus towards that element. So what that means is the combined level of all your light characters will give them boosts to make them a little bit stronger. Now, in my opinion, I think this works a little bit like Master Bonus for Souls, where if you max out the level of a soul, that bonus carries over to all other souls. I don't fully know how this works, but that's basically the gist of it. You want to max level your characters across the board. Another thing I don't know if it's going to be a factor or not is Awakening, because Awakening is like another 80 levels for SSR characters that can do it. So I don't know if that's a factor or not, but you will at least want everybody max level. You may not have to awaken characters, but if it turns out that you do, then you're going to want to do that as well. So you have a reason to level up all your characters. My suggestion is to do it now, because of the fact that it's going to be a feature later on. And unfortunately, in my case, I still have 5 pages of SR and 1 page of SSR to get to that point. I'm going to need a lot of books. I have almost 410 Hime. That is a lot. And I still have a good, 90 SR to go through? So, yeah. And then I've seen some people's lists too. Somebody I know has like 11 pages of SR. They're going to need almost 1,000 silver books. But it's going to be time consuming. There's methods to grind out those books. Do so and get your characters leveled up as much as possible. Especially considering the fact that still helps them out for Tower. And that's another big change that's about to happen. For us anyways. JP Sad's already got it. Tower is going to allow you to use any character you wish 3 times in a row, and that's it. Well, up to 3 times period if you want to be really specific. But that means that you can take your favorite SR Kamihimes and use them for 3 floors back to back. No questions asked. So, in my case, like for instance, Thunder Tower might pop up. I have Set and Frigg. That means I have an SSR healer for 6 of those floors. That's a very nice change. However, where it has also improved is the mission list. You don't even need types anymore. So if you remember the missions where you may need 2 balance or 2 healer, that's gone. Every floor, 5 Hime needs to survive. That's it. Just have advantage element, have 5 characters survive, you've got all 3 missions. Now, where it's downgraded is the fact that the overall medal count is lowered. Mission medals would have given you up to like 15,000, now it only gives you like up to 11,000. That's going to be a change that's going to stick with us. Another thing that is also going to stick with us is the fact that there is 20 keys now, not 22. That not only affects the overall medal count as well, but that means if you screw up one floor, you're not seeing 420. Other changes that's going to happen, I don't necessarily remember if rank bonuses come back or not, because rankings will be gone for at least a while anyway. I don't know if they come back. What does come back eventually is a turn bonus. Turn bonus is going to be gone for a while for us. What it's going to be when it comes back is going to be much harsher, because of course we've had more powerful stuff by then. It makes sense in context. But the fact that you'll need 1 turn, and only 1 turn, to get the maximum turn bonus count when it comes back, definitely be prepared for that. Medea is going to be your best friend for a lot of floors in that case. And my suggestion is to easily get her some lab weapons, maybe even a lucent weapon too, so she can get a final damage increase. So that's something to know. And then on top of that too, this is something that's been announced in the summon as well. There will be floors 21 through 25 coming to JP side eventually. So yeah, given how powerful things have gotten since then, I'm expecting those last 5 floors to be an absolute nightmare. I am also expecting Accessory Quest rank 8 to be very, very difficult to take on. I'm expecting more of the Machine Beast raids, which is the malicious ones. I'm expecting more of those to show up too, because of the fact that they still don't have light and dark. And then there's always a possibility they can go back and do Oj Plus, which is the Phantom Guardian. She doesn't have a plus version. Wouldn't be surprised if they go back and give her one, but who knows. And then another very important thing that's also going to show up eventually that I haven't mentioned: rank bonuses for when you rank up. Now, these are going to be missions that give you rewards based on how much you rank up. Some of these are guaranteed SSR pools. Look forward to that later on. Now, I think I've mentioned in a previous video that they're also going to give you more panel weapons as well. If you still have the 4 panel swords, then you've got another 4 on the way. So if you kept those separate, that's it's 13% assault for each one, and it's going to end up being very close to 100%. Actually, it's going to be past 100% if you have all 8. So for starter grids, that actually would help. So newer players, if you feel like you're not going to be prepared on all 6 of your elements by then that might be something you may want to hold on to. But given that we have Ultimate Catastrophe raids that drop SSR weapons, that may not be needed. So that's something to know. Another thing that's also going to be on the way that comes along with it should be a storage thing, which I haven't used on JP side, so I don't fully have specifics on it, but all I know is it's going to give you extra stuff to store things. Definitely something to look forward to, especially those of you that play this and have your item slots, well, not item slots, but have your weapon slots and your Idolan slots fill up a lot. You're going to have a storage thing to give you more accessibility with all that. And even more accessibility is going to come with the orb changes too, because they're going to give you, like, if you remember how we have weapon and Idolan experience orbs, there's going to be more orbs that do different things. There's going to be ones that give you plus value, there's going to be ones that give you skill experience. They will be grindable in events too, from what I've seen. So that's something to really, really look forward to, because by then you can just have your R weapons just auto convert, and it will save you a crap ton of space. Now, depending on what you want to do with your SR and your SSR, that may end up becoming shards or converted to orbs and all that. It depends. Just choose wisely on that, because gacha stuff always has more value than event and free stuff. But you have a grindable income of weapon shards if you just grind your ultimate catastrophe raids, because you could get SSR that you don't use. You could also get the A-class soul weapons and just use them as fodder as well, because those are always grindable. And then on top of that too, there's also SR stuff that still drops from it as well. It's less shards, but it still helps. So you got grindable resources to get those shards, because if you've noticed on some weapons, we do indeed need those shards. You're going to need them for ultimate limit breaks as well. If I remember correctly, you need that and malicious materials if you don't want to use a break limit item. And it's suggested you don't use a break limit item anyway, because if you can just grind out the other materials, you can save that valuable break limit brick and use it on something that really needs it. So that's something to know. Also, one last thing too, and I gotta show this on the weapon thing as well, but something that's been tested out a bit, so it may affect you or not. These calamity weapons, they may not be part of the meta. What I mean is that, if you remember, it's usually suggested to get a weapon grid that has like 5 types of the same weapon and then get the matching calamity weapon and go with it. That may change because of the fact that it's kind of dependent on what weapon skills you have and how strong you are, but the phantom weapon might actually be holding you back. You may actually have more output without it. So that said, it's worth testing things out to see if it helps you or not. One big thing about these calamity weapons is the fact that they up the base stats of all other weapons of the same type. And honestly, that can be quite a huge boost. It really will give you a noticeable change in your HP. Now, depending on your defender, it may not help her on that aspect, but it is something to be wary of. So you may or may not need these calamity weapons. That's something to remember. I do know for a fact though that they are impressively good base stats for the ultimate limit break weapons, so it's worth experimenting. Just test things out and see how it works. That's the main thing with this, because anybody can tell you what weapon skills are good or what weapons you want to go after, but the issue is if you either A, don't have the weapons, or B, don't have other things to complement those weapons. So depending on what you have determines how strong you can get. That's the main thing about this game. It is so random. Nobody can change that. You can spin until you're blue into the face, but you still can end up getting something that somebody else has not. And you may end up never getting something. It's just how this game is. Test your stuff out. You have to very specifically learn what weapons do what and what skills do what. That's how you really optimize your teams. For all you know, you could end up having 5 random Hime that you've never used before end up being much, much stronger than what you have right now. Because one of them has a very good sub effect that works even... One of them has a good assist effect that even works in sub slots, and then you got 4 in your front line that really complement your soul. You just never know. So that's something to really pay attention to. And that even goes in the case of the Lucent weapons too, because some Lucent teams are actually pretty good. You just need to pay attention to what synergizes with what. And it's bonus points that they even got weapons that have decent skills that you can also give to them as well. Like, for instance, I've been looking into Fire Glaive a lot more, and with the use of Stinger, they actually could have 10 glaive weapons. and do a crap ton of damage with amazing synergy and be a very powerful Lucent team. There's so much you need to invest in order to do that, sure, and it's definitely not for free players, but it's something to possibly look into. And I wouldn't even try looking into it unless you pull the Fire Catastrophe add-on. If you pull her, that's when you may want to start looking into the Fire Glaive thing. So that's something to really know, because Stinger is very good with Catastrophe add-ons. It's just, that's the only time it's good, because it ups the activation chance. So that's something to really consider. But again, it all comes down to experimentation. It all comes down to what you get. So that's something to really pay attention to, and that's something to know. All these weapons are available for you to use, sure, but it's all dependent on what you can use it on. Because if you want full optimization, you would end up having 10 weapon skills that are exceedingly strong. You may even get a Calamity weapon and a Lucent weapon in there as well that also are the same type, and get a very strong Lucent team. So they all get the weapon bonus from all 10 weapons and just wreak havoc. That would be optimal for min-maxing, but it's not feasible in almost every case. Again, depends on what you have access to and what you can work with. And the last but not least, one more thing I need to point out too is the way things are shifting on the JP side, Exceed is starting to fall off a bit. So you may want to start looking into technical, because if you are capable of dishing out a crap ton of normal attacks, bursts are going to get outclassed. Now, the very strong JP players can get like 2 million per hit on normal attacks, and that is easily way past what burst is going to do in total damage. But generally, if you grind out enough technical, you can get about 1 million. So it's all depending on what you can get on that one too. Now, good news on the technical thing is the fact that Malicious Raids do drop technical weapons. Bad news is it's small and it comes with Defender. So it's a worst case scenario for those weapons. But if you can get some of these technical weapons that you see here, is very good. It is very, very good. And honestly, it's better to get the gotcha technical weapons, even the light one, which is kind of lacking in the normal attack meta. But generally, you're going to want to get you're going to want to try and focus a little bit more on normal attacks. So if you can get technical weapons, go for it. If you can't get technical weapons, then you'll still want to have Exceed in order to try and output the most damage. So that's something to know. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this will come soon, and take care.